Now, Brisbane Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner heads to the polls Saturday in what many people say is a reckless decision by the Palaszczuk government to proceed with local government elections. He joins me now in our Brisbane studio. Lord Mayor Schrinner, why are we having this election when the Prime Minister and other premiers are saying please stay at home right now?
Well, Peter, I know your view on it, and I can understand it. Look, the Premier makes the decision on the elections. The Electoral Commission makes the decision on the council election. It's not something that councils are involved with. But having said that, I understand why she's made that decision, and it is based on the Chief Health Officer's advice. My view, though, is that people should not be threatened with fines for not voting in this election. I think that there's extenuating circumstances here. This is an extraordinary situation we've never seen before, and to threaten people with fines for not voting is not a good look or a good thing to do at this time.
Adrian, I won't be voting. Unfortunately, I'm not going to put my family, in harm's way just to go through the process. And I've never not voted in my life, so that's how serious I think. Now, unfortunately today, Lord Mayor, you've had a situation where one of your staff has tested positive to coronavirus. So how does that affect your workforce? What protocols do you now need to put in place?
Well, it's obviously a concerning situation, but the good news is we had the protocols in place. This person came back from overseas, they'd been travelling, they self-isolated for 2 weeks, and during that 2-week period they were diagnosed with COVID-19. So they didn't go back into the workforce at any time, so they've done the right thing, they've stayed away from work, and as a result we can now say that that virus wasn't passed on to anyone in Brisbane City Council, which is obviously a good outcome. Obviously we're feeling for that staff member at this point in time, but they did the right thing, and it's really evidence that this is what people do need to do. If they've been advised to self-isolate, do it, because it stops the virus spreading.
Now, I'm conscious that you're in caretaker period, Lord Mayor, because that's how these things work during a campaign. You haven't had much of a chance to campaign, have you? Because, you and I spoke about this about a month ago. You've been preparing sort of 24/7 for this tsunami for at least a month or so. How do you... has that affected the way that you think your campaign has gone?
Oh, undoubtedly. There's never been an election like this. We saw, about 5 or 6 weeks ago, the starting gun was fired in the election. Both sides were often racing. But what has happened in recent weeks, the election is low down on the priority list in terms of keeping the city running. So I've spent my days and weeks in recent times trying to keep this city running, making sure we have the plans in place to keep the services operating while we're facing this unprecedented crisis. So making sure the rubbish can be collected, that public transport can keep running, keeping our staff safe, and there's been a whole range of things. So yeah, campaigning has suffered, there's no doubt about that, and I can only speculate, or we can only speculate on what that might do on election day, but there are more important priorities right now than campaigning. Traditional campaigning is shaking a lot of hands and kissing babies. There's been none of that. There's been a very different kind of campaign. Booth workers aren't even able to hand out on election booths at the moment, at the early voting stations and on pre-poll stations. So, other priorities right now, keeping the city moving, keeping it running, keeping everyone safe is the top priority.
All right, well, we're running out of time, but I'm going to give you a shot here. Why should Adrian Schrinner be re-elected? Well, you won't be re-elected. You actually inherited the mayoralty from Graham Quirk. Why should we keep an LNP, Lord Mayor, in City Hall for the next 4 years?
Well, experience matters at the best of times. These are not the best of times. Experience matters now more than ever before. And so 11 months as Lord Mayor following the resignation or the retirement of Graham Quirk, but 8 years before that as Deputy Mayor, and 14 years in Brisbane City Council serving the community. I understand how council works, and right now that experience, every little bit of it, is so important to keep the city going. I've done every major important role in this council over the years. I've done the budgeting section of the council, the finance section of the council during the GFC and the 2011 flood. These are the things that will make a difference at a time like now. And like I said, experience matters at the best of times, but it matters even more right now.
Well, Adrian Schrinner, it's a big task Saturday. I mean, you've been in government now for you've been in City Hall for 16 years, the LNP. Sort of got a stranglehold on the wards, but the Lord Mayoralty, the latest polling suggests it's going to be very, very close. Good luck with all that. Good luck with your continuing response to the coronavirus crisis. I know that you guys have put in place some incredibly strong protocols. So thanks for joining us tonight, Adrian Schrinner.